What's up, Tiger fans? Welcome back to The Street Speak. I'm your host, Bryce Frederick, and we are here with the head men's basketball coach, Pat Skerry. You've seen him in the community for over a decade. He's with Spiro's show every week. We're finally going to take a deep dive into kind of what makes him him. So finally, we head in there, and let's start with just growing up around the game of basketball and then heading into Tufts as a player. Kind of what was your path in your early life around the game?
I appreciate you having me on. You're doing great things. I love it. I grew up in Boston, Medford, 5 miles from downtown Boston, and was actually a hockey player growing up, and then started playing some basketball, so did both for a while. Sure. And I always tell people I was in the squirts, in hockey. Best team I was ever on, 72, 2-2.
There you go.
And I played with these two guys, the Sacco brothers, who both played in the NHL. I was on the same line as them. And then I went to try out for the New England Whalers. It was like a big hockey thing with the Sacco brothers, and it was when checking started. And they threw the puck into the corner, and I went in there with JoJo Sacco, who's now used to be the head coach of, I think it was the San Jose, now he's with the Bruins.
Sure.
I went in the corner, and he flattened me like a pancake. And then we went back to the end of the line, and he says, "Sorry, Skerry, I'll let you get the next one." And that's what I said to myself, maybe I'm not that good in hockey. And I started gravitating a little bit more towards basketball.
Sure.
My parents got divorced around then, so I found a lot of solace on the basketball court, just working out by myself. It was a way to kind of get away from everything. And I tell people I love basketball. I was cut from my freshman team at Boston College High School, which I thought was unfair. And I ended up transferring the same league, Malden Catholic, and I ended up starting as a sophomore. And I got a great lesson that year. I worked every day. I came home 2 buses and 1 train to get home. I did all my homework, and I would go up to Medford High School Monday through Friday. The men's pickup game started at 5:30, ended at 9. So I got up there, first guy, and I got a lesson on how to get better, how to compete, how to get tougher playing with men for a whole year. So it actually, I'll forever be grateful for getting cut.
And you go into your first year of coaching so young, right, at 26 years old there at Curry. What did that kind of teach you about kind of growing up? Because all you've done from then to now is coach. And what were the initial lessons that you learned kind of in that first year?
So actually I started coaching, I was 22, right, at Tufts.
Yep,
I was an assistant at Tufts for 3 years, one at Stonehill, and I got my first head job when I was 26 at Curry College. I was the youngest head coach in the country. I was actually, at first it was a part-time job at Curry, so I was at Stonehill, which was Division II at the time, and I saw that Curry had a residential life position open, like running a dorm. So I applied for it. I was on campus interviewing, and then I was going to stop by to see the AD because the basketball head job was open. It was part-time, maybe I could put this whole thing together. And when I was at lunch interviewing, the athletic director, I'll be forever grateful for, Pam Samuelson, came into the cafeteria and said, "Coach, I wanted you to know that the job is going full-time now." I turned to the guy who I was interviewing with. I said, "I am no longer a candidate. I'm going for this thing." So I got the Curry job. I love Curry. I'm 26. I made a million mistakes. We just got after it. My wife, Kristen, worked in admissions at Curry at the time. So that'll forever have a great place in my heart. But I spent 2 awesome years there. But my dream was always to coach in Division I.
Sure. And you obviously got there and you had that long road of being an assistant. And 07, 08 were some of the years you got some national recognition for that. What were some of the things that you learned and the biggest mentors that you had in those years of assistanthood?
Well, I worked not only for a lot of really good head coaches, but with a lot of great assistants. So I feel like I was able to take a lot from all of them.
So every game we watched, somebody was your assistant. Somebody coaching against was your assistant.
Well, you'll have some guys I probably worked for probably thought I was coaching the team back then. I clearly wasn't. I think what I learned as an assistant was really try to work hard and make friends, but try to make your mark as a recruiter. And that's a competitive thing. Like, you got to go to war when you're trying to beat another school or another guy on a kid. So hopefully I was able to make a mark that way. Back then for me was really up in the Northeast and the New England prep schools, and then continue to build our reach when I was able to get in the Big East down into the DMV area.
And then you take the head job at Towson. And that is an uphill battle. You knew it from the start. What did that kind of motivate you towards, and what did that mean to you, and why did you initially take that job here?
That's a great question, and I'm tremendously grateful that I was given the opportunity here. At the time, I was at Pitt, and we were a one seed in the NCAA tournament, and Jamie Dixon is a Hall of Fame coach. He was spitting out assistants into head jobs. So without the opportunity to work for him, I don't ever get this job. When this job opened, Mike Waddell and Dr. Bob Corrett were the president and the AD in charge. And everyone told me, do not take the job. We had a lot of losing seasons. And I've always felt in sports, the hardest things to change are tradition and geography. I felt like we had the geography here. We've got some of the best grassroots and high school coaches in the program. We just hadn't had a lot of tradition. But I was also 41, full of, you know the word, and vinegar, and I probably would have taken a car going down the street if it was a head job at a college. So I get in here, and then I'll be honest, like, you know what you don't know. We did have an upward battle, probably a lot more than I realized. And I say this to this day because everyone's going to talk about we had a great turnaround, and that took a lot of people and took some very special players. We inherited a postseason ban here when I got here. Maybe the best team we ever had, or equal to any team. I never got a chance to play in the conference or the NCAA tournament. If I knew all that was going to happen, as I reflect back today, I probably wouldn't have taken the job because in all likelihood, we should have never been able to get this thing off the map. So I think as we've had success, like I said, I don't know if people really understand how appreciative we should be of those guys that stayed here and helped us pull this thing off of a postseason ban and into a solid program.
And we talk about the process of that climb and kind of the timeline of what that looked like and the tradition and building all that. What were some of the key values you kind of came in with and that have evolved since then that have really been drilled into what makes this program what it is?
Well, I always felt like when I got here, and I still feel like this, we've got to have really good habits. And what we try to do is we try to dominate the day with structure so that we can build good habits. When we have good habits, then we have that buzzword everyone likes, then your culture is good. When your culture is good, then you have a program. But to me, it always comes back to habits. If guys have pretty good habits, if our program has pretty good habits, then we're going to have a strong culture, and then success will come. And I think we've evolved a lot offensively in how we play over the years, and you've tried to adapt to different rules, changing landscape, those type of things. But at the end of the day, to me, it is still about how do we form good habits.
And what's your favorite era you think you've coached in? Because they've changed. The game's changed so much. Personalities have changed.
I love defense. Like I would tell you, like there's nothing like I'm very comfortable in a good old rock fight. But if you throw out we won a lot of games in some earlier years and probably got crushed about our offense. It was like running in the mud. But if you throw out the COVID year, the last 3 years we've been top two. We've been 3-1, and right now we're 2 in offensive efficiency in our conference. So a couple of years ago, I totally overhauled everything we did. And we play with more pace, more space. We have much better shooting. We're taking a lot more threes. So I'm very comfortable with that. I mean, I was kidding to people over the weekend. We look like the Golden State Warriors letting it fly. So you do have to adapt to it. But I do, and guys would tell you this to play. I still believe that defense travels. Defense gives you a chance, no matter what the sport it is.
Sure. And on the personal side of things, kind of the evolution and growth of your family too. Obviously, 2 boys, Ryan and Owen, and what they've meant to you, and how you've kind of changed your coaching style as they've grown and all that kind of stuff. Kind of go into that family side for you.
We've been extremely fortunate. My son Ryan's a senior at Delaney High School, and I'm thankful that we didn't have to move around a lot. That he's a Maryland guy. He's a Towson guy, and that's home to him. And we've been very fortunate. My youngest son Owen has autism, and we have unbelievable services here in Baltimore County and the state of Maryland. So we've been very fortunate for that. I think a lot. I think in some ways probably am more demanding on our kids because of how talented they are and the opportunities they have. but hopefully in other ways I have more empathy for them as well. I also say, as coaches, we're always trying to organize, analyze. I look at what my wife Kristen has to do with Owen and some of the teachers and instructors around him. They're way more organized. Like if my wife comes to a game here, she got to get the pack back. She's got to have both Kindles. They got to be charged. Got to have the headset. Got to have the certain Pixar movies download on. We got to have the right amount of Starburst, juice boxes, drink and then the routine is huge.
Yeah.
So, in a whoop kind of way, it's forced me to think differently sometimes of how I try to organize myself with work.
Yeah, and you talk about that kind of autism awareness that's been spread nationally, and your role in that, and some other coaches across the country. Kind of go into who else has made that possible, what inspired you to do that in the first place, and kind of how this reach has been so effective.
Yeah, look at we just had a clever idea, so I don't want to take too much credit for it. The impetus behind it was it's the world's largest developmental disorder. Sure. There is no known cure, and heartbreakingly, it costs the average family $50,000 to $60,000 to get the services they need. So that was really the impetus behind it. When we got here to Towson, we participated in a couple events with Autism Speaks, and then thought, hey, my second year here, let's do something on campus. And it was the last year in the old Towson Center. Yeah. We had about a dozen local organizations come out. And then going into the third year, Tom Herrion, who then was the head coach of Marshall University, I worked for him at the College of Charleston and a close friend. He has a son, Robert, on the spectrum. And we got this idea, like on a February, how many college basketball games are on national TV? There were like 31 that year. It was the first year of the ACC, Duke, Carolina, So we got all the rock stars to wear the pins, and Autism Speaks got involved, and we still do it. The Women's Basketball Coaches Association is helping out. Autism Speaks, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Now it's to me like, how do we make it better? I'm not sure the answer to that. I think we'll have over 300 programs this weekend.
Beautiful.
I'd like more. I'd like everyone to do it. So we have not finished the goal, so to speak.
And when you look back on that in your career here and what you've done kind of throughout coaching, when it's all said and done, what do you want to be remembered for the most?
That's a great question. Well, one, I value the relationships where I'm afforded the opportunity to make with my players. Those are my guys forever, and staff. And I hope at the end of the day, my guys say, one, he cares, and two, we all got it equally. There were no, I hope there was no coaching around anybody.
Yeah. Do you think you average a double-double in Gatorade cups and cough drops?
Wow. So I will tell you, Gatorade cups probably no. You're locked in. Cough drops I do. I usually put out 12. I'm a little superstitious with that. I can eat 2 before the game starts, and then usually 5 a half.
Yeah, there you go. So our final question that we'll wrap up with, and obviously you've made an impact to make Towson a special place for a long, long time, but what have you done today to make Towson Athletics a better place than it was yesterday?
Great question. I met individually with each of our guys today.
Yep.
We were off, and I wanted their feedback on what they thought we needed to do this week in order to make us better, and then I gave them a couple things I've been thinking about.
There we go. Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us again. Thanks, Coach, for coming on. Follow these guys as they make the run into March, and check out the rest of the Towson Athletics programs as we head deeper into the spring. See you guys soon. Go Tigers.